This is TJ with TechMadeEZ. Welcome to the channel. My channel is all about making things affordable, practical, and easy. We're going to be talking about Plex and JellyFin and which one is best for you in 2024. Is Plex or is JellyFin? Is there an advantage of one or over the other? We're going to discuss that. We're going to do a quick install of both of them, quick features, and then we're going to go in and talk about the pros and cons of both of those. Let's get started.
Alright, so here I am at my Linux desktop. I'm running Plex in a Docker and JellyFin in a Docker. Now it doesn't matter if it's Docker or if you're in Windows and an .exe file, both of those, because we're just going to go up over the basic setup. It's the same on all systems, whether you're using Linux, Mac, or Windows. And so, but what I want to do is just again do a quick install, do a quick overview of just touch on some of the features of both, and then I want to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of using them, as I explained in the intro. So let's just dive in really quick. I do want to let you know that I am using both at this time, and I'm going to go over why I'm using both. Now, I don't expect a new user to use both of these, but I've been using Plex for 10 years. So let's go ahead and let's install Plex really quick, and then we'll install JellyFin. We're going to start with Plex. So Plex is just going to give you an overview. So just so you know, Plex is free, but they do have these monthly, yearly, or a lifetime subscription, and I'll go over that, the advantages of that here in a minute. So the first thing it's going to ask you, actually, I'm going to name this server. I'm just going to name it TechMadeEZ Plex, and I'll just go ahead and allow media access outside the home, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. So if you've never installed Plex or JellyFin, again, they're super easy to install. If you have, bear with me, or use the timestamps to go forward. So we'll go ahead and hit that, and it might take a minute for this to activate the server and some of the services. Okay, so now Plex is going to ask you to add a library. Now you can go back and you can add more libraries if you want after this. So I'm going to go ahead and add movies, and you can change this to whatever you want. I actually separate my movies. I have kids, PG and PG-13, and then I have my adult. I separate sci-fi from comedy and drama, so you can organize it any way you want. And like I said, I'm going to show you my personal Plex and JellyFin after we're done, and talk about the reason why I'm using both at this time. But it's really easy to install both of them, so both of them work the same. We're just going to go in here. Here's my media, here's my movies. I'm going to hit add here, add library. Now I want to add another one because I've got TV shows in here, and you can do music and photos, and when you do photos, it just plays like a slideshow. And so let's just go ahead and add our TV shows, and I'll just go back to my TV, add library, and we'll just hit next. We'll hit done. Okay, and there we have it. And then we can just start playing a movie. And I've turned the volume down, but it's just that easy to install Plex. Now I am going to go over again some features here really quick. So let's go here. So the home screen is where you pin everything that you want. Now normally, I will say that I already installed this. So normally what you would see is these on the front screen. And so I'm going to pin this to the front screen, pin this to the front screen, because normally you would see these Plex, and you would see all of them. I'm just not going to pin all of them. Now the reason why you see these, and this is the thing that kind of, so when Plex first came out years ago, they were just a video server only. But then let's go back into more here. But then they wanted to get into live TV, and they wanted to really become a live TV service. And you can watch live TV in here. We'll have commercials, so on and so forth. And if you're familiar with Tubi, you're pretty much going to have probably the same type of shows as you do with Tubi. You can watch movies in here as well. Again, they're going to have commercials, and now they do rentals. So they added rentals. This is new. I don't know when they started rentals, but you can do that. But you can unpin them from your home screen when you open that up. Now the other thing that I do want to show you here is, because I installed this before and I used the same name, you're going to see here, and I use the same username and login. So when you normally load Plex, it'll ask you for your Plex username and password. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to create a username and password with Plex first. But because I already used this username and password, Plex realized that it didn't ask me for it again. But so that's why this is sitting here, because I already installed this. And sorry, I probably should have started a new username and password with Plex to do this demo. But that's the only step The only step that you have to do when you install Plex is you have to create an account with Plex, username and password, and then when you launch Plex for the first time, it'll ask you to put in that username and password. So, but the reason why I kept this in here is because I want to show you something. Because this is what happens sometimes when you have to reinstall Plex. Then your old Plex will be sitting here. And the way you get rid of that, so we're going to go into settings because I want to show you some really quick features and settings real quick. Like I said, at the beginning, I want to just briefly go over some features. So in here, I'm not going to go over all these. Plex Home is just, this is that you can add more users to here. And this is the way I use Plex. So I have a kids login. The kids login don't have access to my rated R shows. I'm okay with them watching rated R shows as long as I know which ones they're going to watch. And so they have their own login. And so you can create that in here. And so you can create another, you can create another account here. So manage libraries is just where we're at. So what I want to do here, general, again, I'm not going to go over every single one of these in detail. Quality, this is one thing that you would probably want to adjust when you launch Plex. This is internet streaming outside your home. You don't want to stream at 12 megabytes per second, 1080p. You might want to go, you can try it out at 8 megabytes, but a lot of times I do 3 megabytes 720. Outside your home, if you're on a phone or some type of tablet or your laptop, that's plenty. That 720p, you're not going to notice a huge difference there. So a lot of times I will set this for outside streaming out of my home. So you can just hit save changes there, and then I don't ever do anything with the player. You can adjust that. Dashboard, what this does, in fact, let me just start a movie really quick so we can see here. I'll just start this one again. And so if we go into, minimize that, and now if I go back here to my settings, go to dashboard, it's going to show me who's watching what here, and then it will keep a history, and you can see what someone's been watching over time if you want alerts here. Conversion. Now I don't use this conversion really quick. If you can put movies. Let's say you use MKV and you're ripping a movie. You can create a folder and then point Plex to that folder, and it'll automatically compress it. The reason why I don't use that is because I want some controls over my compressing, so I use Handbrake for that. But I have a friend, he used this method for years. It doesn't compress it as much as Handbrake will, and I don't know how it handles the subtitles and all that kind of stuff. Remote access, that's what we left on. So you can, Plex allows you to access Plex outside your home, but you have to go to your router and you have to put in this port here. And I'm going to talk about, so Plex makes it really easy for you to access your Plex outside your home. A little different with Jellfin, and we'll talk about that and how to overcome that with Jellfin. So I'm going to hit, I'm going to stop this movie though. And so your libraries, you don't really have to change any of these settings in here. If you want to go through and look at them, again, I'm not going through these in detail. Transcoding. Now transcoding, I don't even remember. I used to mess around with transcoding years ago, and I don't think I do it anymore. I just leave it on automatic and it works fine. But when I first loaded Plex, I didn't have a system that was very, the CPU wasn't a strong CPU, and back then there wasn't hardware transcoding back then like there is now. And so, but if you want, you could play around with this just to see if one way is more efficient than the other. So pretty much these scheduled tasks is just when it's going to scan the libraries again and do some maintenance. Not a big deal. Now extras, what I do like with Plex, and both Jellfin the same, they include cinema trailers for your movies. Now this is set on, the default is only watchable. I always want to see the trailers whether I've watched the movie or not. In here, so in libraries here, if we want to add, maybe create another directory, and we added some different types of movies in there, documentaries, maybe you want one called documentaries, you can add it here. You can go ahead and delete a library, start over, so on and so forth. One thing I am going to go into though, I do want to show you how to get rid of a server that you've already installed and maybe you have to reinstall. So I'm going to click on this really quick here, and I'm going to hit remove server. So that's how you remove a server if you have to install twice. So that's pretty much that there. What I do want to talk about though really quick before we go into Jellfin is I want to, and you can see how easy this was to set up, not an issue. And one of the things you're going to notice with Jellfin is Jellfin does not have your movie criterias and TV shows criterias listed on the side here, and we'll talk about that when we get into Jellfin. But one thing I do want to talk about really quick with Plex, and this is where you could say these are pros and cons. Now, I don't like the fact that I have to log into Plex to install Plex. And let me just talk about some of the things that happens there. When you now let's first talk about what you get when you pay for the subscription. So what you get when you paid for the subscription, you can now share your libraries with anybody. You can't share your library, so you could create so what will happen is when you share a library, they'll send you will invite them, you'll send an invitation to their email, then they will accept that invitation. And then what you can do is you can set up what movie directories you want them to have access, whether you want them to be downloadable so they can download, like on Netflix, watch it later, so on and so forth. So you can then, I probably have shared Plex with 30 different people now. Now, I don't have that many people watching my Plex. The most I used to have on my Plex server was maybe 7 at a time. But now that streaming is so popular and everybody has access to Netflix and Prime Video, I don't have near as many people that access my server anymore. And it's totally legal as long as you're not charging anyone to watch your server. And so when I first started with Plex, I did buy that lifetime service. It was cheaper back then, obviously, when I bought mine. But what it also gives you, it gives you hardware encoding as far as using a video card, Intel's InSync, so on and so forth. So, but as long as you have a processor that can handle the transcoding, you don't need that part of it. But you do need to transcode. You will need that in order to transcode 4K correctly, because it will do the color mapping. Now, I just want to let you know, I have set up that transcoding, and it still doesn't. I don't see it color mapping. So I don't like to play my videos in 4K because the color mapping is just off. I just rip everything in Blu-ray. So that's all I want to say there. So these are my issues with having to log in to Plex. They see everything you're watching. They see anybody that you invite as a friend. They see everything they're watching, and then they push notices to them. They push movies to watch, maybe on their channels here. And I don't really like that. Now, you can go into Plex, and I'm not going to go into that right now. So let's get back to this privacy thing. Now, there's a whole bunch of privacy things that you can turn off in the settings. There's one privacy, though, that it's a little tricky to get into. Again, I'm not going over that because we have a lot to cover here. But I just don't like the fact that Plex is seeing everything that I do on my Plex server. JellyFin does not do that. And I don't like the fact that I have to be connected to the internet to connect to Plex. But I will say this much, and a lot of people don't know this when they're running Plex. If you lose internet access, if for some reason your internet goes down and you go to launch Plex, it's not going to work because it has to log in to Plex's server. But if you wait, and I don't know how many minutes, I haven't timed this, if you wait 2 to 3, maybe 5 minutes, Plex will come online and you can watch your videos. I think what happens when the internet goes down, Plex will look and see that it doesn't have access to their server. And so eventually when it sees that the internet is down, then it all of a sudden lets you watch your Plex movies without being connected to the internet. But you just have to be patient and wait for Plex to time out, and then your Plex movies will come up. And I don't think a lot of people know that, because I think that when the internet goes down, they click on it, oh man, I can't watch anything on Plex, which isn't true. Just give it time and you will. All right, so really quick, let's go into JellyFin, and then I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of both of those. But let's install let's go through the setup of JellyFin really quick. So I'm going to go ahead, click JellyFin. All right, so when you click on JellyFin, it's just going to ask you to, it's going to go through a quick setup. So we're going to hit, you can choose your language, we'll hit next. We're going to create our username. I'm just going to put in a simple password. Hit next. Now here's where we add our libraries. So we'll just add this library. Again, it's really similar to Plex. We can movies, we can name this whatever we want. We select our folders here, and I'm under media. There's my movies. Hit OK. Then I'll hit OK here. We have our movies one. Now I'm going to add the TVs just like we did before. So let's go ahead, and it's called shows here. So again, you can name that whatever you want. You can hit add folder, and we're going to hit TV. Now I will say here, there is a lot of setup in here that you can change when you're adding movies. I personally don't see any reason to change any of these. The only thing is that you can do chapter images here. You maybe want to do that, extract chapter. Anyway, because one thing about Jellifin that's nice is it does get the chapters in a movie. Plex does not. So, but I usually don't change that information there. So now we have added our TV shows and our movies. So let's hit next. And again, you can choose a language, your country or origin. We'll hit next, and then I don't really change anything here. So I'm going to hit next, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about is how do we access Plex, or how do we access Jellifin outside our own home network. So let me put in my password here. Let's get into Jellifin for a minute. So here we have our movies and TV shows. Now, eventually, Jellifin will go in and it'll grab some images and throw up some images here, and then it'll say movies on here, and it'll say shows. So it will update that a little bit. But you'll notice here how there's no list on the side. I personally like the list on the side, and I don't know if there's a way in Jellifin. If you are watching this and you're a Jellifin guru, and you know of a way to get those listed on the side permanently, because I can click on this here, and then here they are, movies and TV shows, but this is only just for quick access to your dashboard and other settings. It doesn't stay there, and if you're on like a smart TV or a Roku, you won't have any option to show this here. So let's go into the settings here really quick. Now, what you're going to notice here, you're going to notice that I have two true lies here. The reason why is because one of these is a 4K. Sometimes I'll rip up a 4K version of a movie just to see if I can get that color mapping to work, which I haven't been able to get it to work with Plex or Jellifin. Don't ask me why. And so, again, if you are a Plex guru or a Jellifin guru, I use hardware encoding in Plex. Doesn't make a difference whether I use hardware encoding or not. But I just haven't been able to get that. It just doesn't do the color mapping like it should. Now, if I want to tell which one of these is 4K, I can just click on here. And this one, SDR, that's regular 1080p. And then if we click on this one, HDR is 4K. If it was in Plex, it would say 4K on it. So with Plex, and I probably should have showed this in Plex, it only showed one icon because Plex, it doesn't know what to do when it sees two movies with the same name on it. Even though one says 4K, you can go in here into options that has split apart, and then it will split those movies apart. It's kind of annoying that it doesn't automatically put them split apart like Jellifin does. And so, but again, here we can play this movie here just like we did before. And this is the thing that I like. See how it broke it up into the different chapters? Plex doesn't do that. At least I think it does. And so and for some people that might be a nice feature. So let's just go into the settings real quick here. So there's the dashboard and then there's settings. So I just want to show you the dashboard really quick. So the dashboard is where you go. So if you add a movie, you go to libraries here, you can hit scan all libraries, or you can just scan on an individual library. And you can do the same in Plex. I didn't show that, but you have that same feature. Now in users, what I really like about Jellifin is I could just set up a user here, again, give them access. For me, let me back up here. So the one thing I really like about Jellifin is I can create a user and I can give them access to certain libraries. And so then when they log in as that user, they just have access to those libraries. I can do the same with Plex. So in Jellifin, I go to users here, and then here is where I create a new user, and that user I would apply which movie libraries they have access to. Really easy, and then I can give them that user ID, user login, and then they have access to that. So like my kids, I have a separate login for my kids in Jellifin because again, I don't give them full access to my rated R shows unless I give them permission. And so anyway, that's what you do here. If you want to create a login for your friends, also as well, you can do that. And like I said, I'm going to go in and I'm going to show my personal Jellifin and Plex that I have set up. But for right now, I just want to go through some of the features in the dashboard and in the settings. So now there's so many things that Plex and Jellifin do that I'm not going over. You can do live TV. You can set up a DVR, so on and so forth. And this here will just show you activity of people that have logged in. When you're in the dashboard, if someone's playing a movie, it'll show up in here just like it did in Plex. I do want to say too, also when you set up a user here, there are things that you can restrict them, like they can't delete any files from your server. They can't download. Now, I let people download in Plex because Plex puts it in a certain folder and it's kind of protected, where they can't just take that file and add it to their own system. But Jellifin just directly downloads my MKB file, and I don't want people going onto my server and just downloading every video that I have on there that I have spent thousands of money on over the years downloading my personal videos. So I don't let anybody download using Jellifin. I do with Plex. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to go to playback here for a minute, because this is where you go in so hardware encoding is free with Jellifin, but this is where I ran into problems. I use the Intel QuickSync, and I use the Video for Linux 2 for decoding. And what happened when I did that, if you choose any of these decoding hardware acceleration, try it on every device, because what was happening is I was going in and on my phone it wouldn't work. I don't know why, and I haven't played around with this that much, so I don't even use hardware encoding. Just let my processor do it. I have a beefy enough processor. I mean, I can have, I don't know how many people watching a movie, maybe 10 people with it encoding. It doesn't have to, not every video that you play with Plex and Jellifin, it has to transcode. Some of them will play directly, depending on whether it's in your house, outside your house, and how you have that set up. So, but if you want, like if I do an Intel QuickSync, you can pick these here. I don't know why it wouldn't work with some, anyway, I just found that I have problems with it, and I don't understand that. So to me, that's one disadvantage of this, but it's not that big a deal at the same time for me. So, but you can go in here. There's lots of settings that I'm not going to go in here and go through all of these. The one thing that you want to do here is streaming. You want to pick internet streaming here in bits, megabits per second. So you would want to put the limitations in here. Otherwise, it's just going to be streaming full throttle to your devices outside your home. And so you do want to put a limit on that here. And I did do that in my personal one. Unfortunately, they don't have pull-down menus. You just have to figure out what you want to limit your streaming at, and then you just put that number in here. And then I'm not sure what TrickPlay is. I haven't really gone into here to see what this is, so on and so forth. But as far as just basic setup, someone to just install and start their video server, boom, this is it. Because there is actually a lot that you can do in Jellifin. I remember the first time I watched a person installing Jellifin, and I mean, my heavens, I'm like, if that's what it takes to install Jellifin, no, I'm not installing it. But that's because he had a lot of anime stuff, so he's putting in URLs to grab his anime metadata and so on and so forth, but both of them will grab the metadata automatically. And just so you know, neither Plex or Jellifin are perfect at grabbing metadata. For whatever reason, there might be a movie that it just doesn't add the metadata. And I'm not going over, when you do put movies and TV shows on your server, you have to have them formatted right so that it goes and grabs the right metadata. You have to have the exact name of the movie and the year the movie was made. But it still won't do it. So you can go in and change the metadata if you want to. And so, like, even for me, so really quick, let me just go back here, and I just want to show, because both of them do the same thing. If I click on the three dots here, and I can edit metadata or edit image, and then here's where I can go and find an image for that movie if it doesn't match, if that's important to you. Now, the other thing is, really quick on setting up a video server, it's all up to you. I put in a lot of criteria, which you'll see. In fact, let's go over to my own personal Plex and Jellifin server that I'm using, and let's talk about some things there. Okay, one thing I need to mention really quick about Jellifin, because Jellifin hasn't been around as long as Plex. It may not be available on all smart TVs, especially older ones, but it is available usually as an app on Android, Mac, Roku, any of your newer devices like that, newer smart TVs, it's available. And so just keep that in mind, that if you have an older smart TV, you may not be able to install the app on that TV. But what I want to show you here is I want to show you that my Plex here and my Jellifin. So I've already launched them, so let's go into my Plex, and you're going to see how I have all these criteria here. I have family, kids, movies, GPG. If I click on here, I've just got a ton of Disney, DreamWorks, Illumination, all kinds of kids movies in here. So that's how I separate. Here's my action adventure, my comedy, Marvel movies. Here's my TV shows, Christmas, I got a ton of Christmas, so on and so forth. I really like my movie descriptions, libraries listed on the side here. In Jellfin, again, they're not listed here. Now, yes, in the web browser, I can click on here and they're listed, but again, this is just to have access on the web and get to my dashboard. But if you're using a smart TV, that will not show up, or a Roku. Now, this is the difference here. My folders here, I went ahead and created my own thumbnails for PG action, created this one for comedy. The TV shows, I haven't created one yet. Kids movie, I hasn't created one, but it's kids TV shows. Again, this is my own thumbnail, and I put a description on here. And so, for me, again, I haven't been using Jellfin that long, but eventually I'll make a thumbnail for the kids movies and the TV shows, and that is kind of nice where I can do that. You know, in Plex, I just have my descriptions of my libraries on the side here, which I'm fine with. What I'd like Jellfin to offer both. So these are all of your libraries and you have to scroll to get to all of them down here. It would just be nice to have them listed here. Again, if you're a Jellfin guru and you know how to access, or maybe there's an option in the settings that I didn't see that allows that, you could do that as well. It would be nice. So basically, let me just share you my frustration with Plex. Over the years, because they've created Plex to be a streaming service instead of just a personal video server. Now, some people may like the fact that they can just go watch a whole bunch of free shows with Plex without leaving Plex to do that. And I'll admit, it can be nice to do that if you want to do that. But I just don't like the fact that I have to log into their server. I don't like the fact that when I share my library, and just so you know, when someone has Plex in their own house and they want access to your libraries, it's a little cumbersome to get that to work. I don't like it. So like my sister, she lives in a different state, and they bought a new TV, and I cannot walk her through how to do that because she uses a computer, QuickBooks, but that's all she knows. She is not computer literate at all, and I cannot help her get Plex installed on her new TV. Or not installed, we can install it, but I can't get her to link up to my library until the next time I visit her. So, but with Plex, now, or not with Plex, but with Jellfin, if you want to share your library, or if you want access to your library outside your home, you have to do some type of VPN, or you have to set up a URL, a web address. And so that was going to be my next video, is how do I share my Plex server outside my home and with my friends and family. And so what I have done here, so let me just jump over to here. I've created this URL. Now with most people, I don't know how many people want to pay for a URL, so I'm using a free URL from DuckDNS. And so that's how I'm sharing my Plex outside my home. And again, my next video is how you do this through DuckDNS, through Nginx as a proxy manager. It makes it really, really simple and easy. And I've tried to make this as easy as possible. There are some videos out there, but the problem is sometimes they're a little complicated, and then other times they leave a step out that's very important to having access outside your home, even though they're setting up DuckDNS and Nginx. So anyway, as far as features go today, if I was, let me show you a feature in Plex and in Jellfin that I really like. And I didn't think this was in Jellfin because this was going to be an argument for me for not using Jellfin, but then I found out it actually is there. But I found out Jellfin does do this feature with the exception of one thing. So one thing that I do like, and again, this is all personal. Everybody wants a video server. You know, some of these things that I'm going to talk about are personal to me. Like my descriptions on the side here, instead of being these thumbnails and going across the screen. I'd much rather have these on the side. But anyway, at any rate, so if I go into a movie, say like Footloose here, and I go down here, what Plex does is it has reviews and it has all these other things. Like here's the soundtrack, and it'll have songs from the soundtrack, so on and so forth. But the thing that I like is I like the extra section. And the extra, so what Plex will do is it'll go out to the internet and it'll find any snippets of interviews or behind the scenes for that movie and put it in Plex. Now the problem is with these is they're usually 30 to 60 second snippets. So like if I play this one here, then what will happen here is you can see it's going really fast because it's only about 30 seconds. Well, sometimes I would like to have more behind the scenes. Now I don't do this on every movie that I rip, only on ones that I really want to have more interviews and behind the scenes. And so what I've done here, this Footloose Chris, this is an interview, this is where they're talking about Chris, who is this star right here. Here's an interview with Kevin. And so when I play this, and again I have the sound turned down or muted, this is probably a 6-minute interview where they're talking about this actor. And it's really, these interviews with Footloose are really fun on how it all came together and the actors that were involved with it. So I do like sometimes behind the scenes interviews, but 30 to 60 seconds is always enough. So what Plex allows you to do is if you format your interviews right, then they show up in this extra section. So let me give you an example. So here's my folder that contains Footloose in it. And I know a lot of people, when they set up a video server, they don't even put their videos in folders. I put them in folders. And the reason why I put them in folders is for situations like this. So here I have Footloose behind the scenes, Footloose Chris interview. So if you do this dash behind the scenes, then that creates that, then that shows up in your extra, this Chris dash interview, Kevin dash interview, Sarah dash interview, then song I put as other. So that's how you get your own stuff into this extra section. Now, I didn't think that JellyFin did this, but it does do this with the exception of, let's go to JellyFin for a minute. So here's Footloose on JellyFin. And if you go down here, it has special features instead of called extras. Well, these are my special features that I put in here. But what JellyFin doesn't do, and I don't know, and maybe I have to go in the settings and do this, it doesn't pull in any interviews. But it might. I haven't, like I said, I haven't been using JellyFin for that long. When I went through the settings, I couldn't necessarily find where this might be. But maybe it is a setting I can turn on. I don't know. If you are JellyFin, if you know tons about JellyFin and that feature exists, please leave drop me a line in the comments. But anyway, I really like being able to put my own in here, and I do like it when they grab snippets from the internet as well. Now that isn't a deal killer for me going over from Plex to JellyFin because it's more important for me to put my own in here when I want to. But let me just tell you where I am with Plex today and where I am with JellyFin. If I was a person starting a new video server today, I would choose JellyFin. And I really hate to say that because Plex has served me so well over time. Now, where Plex made it easy was sharing your video, was accessing your videos outside your home. That was the nice thing about Plex when I got it. I could share my libraries very easy with my friends. Where with JellyFin, that's not as easy to do. But today, it is easy to do. And so I'm going to go over that. So that's one thing that was really nice about Plex, but it's not as much of an issue today. The other thing is, again, and again, this is just me, I like having these lists on the side. If JellyFin would have this list on the side, I would probably go to JellyFin 100%. So, but let me just talk about how you share files, because that's the only thing. This is the only thing that I really like about Plex now, is this list here. That is it. That's the only advantage that Plex has. And if this list here isn't a big deal to you, which it probably isn't to most people, then just go with JellyFin. Now let me just talk to you about sharing your JellyFin on the outside. So what I did is I created a URL. I used DuckDNS to create my URL. It's free. And so I'm going to have my next video is how do you use DuckDNS to share JellyFin outside your home and with your friends and family, or anything else that's web-based on your computer, how you access that outside your home using DuckDNS to do that, along with Nginx. So I use a combination of Nginx and DuckDNS. And if we go into my CasaOS, I have a DuckDNS Docker down here, and there's a reason why you have to have that to run DuckDNS for your URLs. But anyway, so again, as far as today goes, which one would I choose? If it was me, knowing how easy it is to set up a URL and share my videos outside my home, I'd probably go with JellyFin. There really isn't much holding me to Plex anymore. I am running still Plex in my house, but anybody I share my videos files with now, I do it with JellyFin. Now with JellyFin, you can create a username and address for them, or a username and password. You can put whatever libraries you want to put on there for them, and then they have and give them the URL. So that's how I share my video server. They're using JellyFin instead of Plex. Now, my existing users that I'm sharing Plex with, I'm not making them go to JellyFin. They can still access Plex, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going to run Plex and JellyFin side by side, is because I do have a few, not as many anymore access my Plex server, but I have a few that do access my Plex server, and so for right now, I'm using Plex for that purpose. But for anybody else that I'm sharing my video files with, I use JellyFin. You know, I didn't know if you were expecting like, oh, there's huge differences. There isn't anymore. JellyFin has come such a long way. If you want transcoding, it's free. If you want transcoding with Plex, you got to pay for it. And if you want to share your videos, your video libraries with anybody with Plex, you have to pay for that as well. You don't have to do that with JellyFin, but you do have to take some extra steps to share and have access to your video files outside your network. Anyway, this is TJ with TechMadeEZ. I hope that was helpful. Have a great day. Thanks.
Now that was easy